Uh, tu- 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 tu.
Yeah, we're live, Mike.
Yes, yeah, we're live now. Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday to you from wherever you are watching this. My name is Mike, and I am the guy behind Setlean, the platform that is bringing you this podcast once every 2 weeks. And here we tell you the truth about migration. And very much related to the topic that we're talking about today, beyond the search for greener pastures. This is also the key reason why we do this podcast, that people really get to understand the truth, the reality behind migration. This episode challenges the popular assumption that everyone who migrates is simply running away from poverty or in search for more money. Sadly, this is the mentality that many people have. When my co-host Mike shared this topic with me, I didn't think twice. I said, it's on point. I'm going with it totally. And that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. Before I proceed, I'd like my co host, Mike, who's joining us from Nigeria, also briefly introduce himself, say a few words, and we get right into the gist for this evening. Mike.
So, good evening, everyone. Our audience across all the different platforms. My name is Mike, and I'm based here in Nigeria, Kaduna State to be precise. And so, when I also share this topic with Faye, Mike, it will interest you that she also had a lot to say about this whole misconception about moving abroad and then the cure for poverty.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people don't know that Nigerians are moving abroad to also go and add value. So
Hmm.
not everybody who moves abroad is going to cure their family problem or solve family
No.
problems. Some are moving abroad in search of a better system, and some are even moving abroad to go and add value to their European economy and all of that. So
Yep.
Faye had a lot to say about the whole this and also. So yeah, that's the idea about it. Not everybody who moves abroad is in search of a way to overcome or poverty per se. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me say something very importantly that I think everyone needs to listen to and understand it. It doesn't matter what people think is the reason that other people move abroad, be it to go solve poverty or whatever. But the truth is, the reality, when you
Yeah.
move abroad, especially when you go to Europe and the other developed countries, the only reason they take you in is because you are adding value to them. That's the fact. That's the only reason they take you in. And that's why you go through the whole visa process. That's why you have to show your proof of finance, your proof of sustenance. So no can't accept you're a refugee, you're fleeing from war or some other political situation. Your life is in danger. That's the only time you're taken in, even when you're not necessarily going to add value to them right at that moment because it's a case of emergency. But the default reason that you've been accepted to get to the next country is because you're going to add something to them. So probably with this explanation or concept, maybe it already solves the argument, behind the beyond the search for greener pastures. Mike, do you follow what I'm saying?
Very
And
well. I am getting your point. As a matter of fact, I think if I understand you, what you're saying is a poor man in the first place cannot migrate to Europe from Africa. If you are
right,
poor, in the
exactly.
context of being poor in Africa, you cannot migrate
Yeah.
to Europe because of the cost of migrating to Europe. Yeah,
And maybe you
yeah.
can because they are like provisions,
So
scholarship,
now I was
fellowship,
discussing.
support. But at the end of the day, you only get a scholarship because you're going to add some value to that place, right? It's because you are a scholar, for example. So the key point still is no one is taking you in because you are coming to get more money there and solve your problem wherever you're coming from. And really, this is the key message that I need people to understand. Go on, please.
Yeah, Michael, it makes even more sense that, like you rightly said at the beginning, you have to show some proof of funds, proof of accommodation, your transport, and most of these costs. You have to show proof that you have the potential or the capability
Hmm.
to take care of these things. And then
Yep.
Europe will not be granting you visa if you tell them you are going to be sleeping on the streets of Europe,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that you are going to be a homeless person in Europe. So they won't be
Hmm.
granting you a visa. They want to make sure that you bring in something. I mean, reasonable that you have some level of independence, financially speaking, or you have somebody who can guarantee that for you, even as a student, not just as somebody
Right.
who's coming to work. So,
Yep.
a poor
Yep.
man from Africa might not be able to make it to Europe unless on humanitarian grounds, like you rightly mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And maybe going back to the point which you shared earlier, for some Nigerians or other Africans, migration is less about economic survival and more about stability, predictability, security, an opportunity to plan your life with not only confidence but also be in an environment where you know that you can sustain yourself. And that is why that's the difference between people who move abroad and make it and those who just leave and don't make it, right? Because um, most people are already comfortable where they are, say by their local standard, be that Nigeria or wherever. And if you recall, I've mentioned a couple of times that for some people migration is a downgrade. you know Migration is a downgrade, but because of these factors, stability, predictability, better opportunity, that's why people move. So it's really, and sadly, even people who are moving for this reason, because of this whole mentality, they don't even know that this is why they are moving. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand you. I understand you.
Yeah.
Now, I think like to just further to allude to what you're saying, I have a friend who is living in Abuja. They had to move into the house of a man, a family who moved to Europe. Michael,
Hmm.
the building is superb. Everything filled, well, furniture intact, everything. New building, nice, duplex.
Yep.
And they left it to Europe. They didn't pick anything. The window blinds, all the kitchen equipment, everything you could think of, still intact in the house. Is this a poor family? Are they pursuing a comfort? No.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
for such people, they want, a decent environment that guarantees some level of predictability.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you know, I don't mean to disrespect our country or economy, but in the Nigerian economy, you can't plan. In the morning, you are going to work, maybe you pay 200 naira for transport fare. In the evening, you're coming back, you might be paying 500. So, not to talk
Almost
about
thousand.
planning for a month or a year, but some people just want this predictability. You know, you have a system that is working. We have a lot of our brothers and sisters or friends who are living in Europe who can aspire into political positions. They contest like
Yep.
the citizens of the country. There are Nigerians who are occupying political offices in parts of Europe and even in America.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but
Yep.
back at home, based on discrimination and all of that, you can't even dream. There are things you know naturally that you can't become if you are from certain area. You know, the
That's
fact
the
that
sad reality, though. Yeah,
yeah, this
sadly,
is a
it's like
reality.
just forget it.
Yeah. Now, forget it that if you are from this region or this area or this state or local government, there are things you know by birth you can't become, and
Yep.
this alone can put somebody off and can be a reason for him to move out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just tired of this. So this
Yep.
person is not poor, he's doing well, but he's just tired. I told you the story of Chimamanda Adichie, who lost her son, is it earlier this year?
Yep.
There's also
Yep.
the story of another woman who I was watching the video. She's in the UK, she's in England, London, and she mentioned how she lost her two children out of overdose of sedation for the child's
Jesus.
treatment. And you hear of things that naturally should have caused any problem. So people can also be migrating in search of systems at work. In the
Yep.
case of
Yep.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, she said that the child had a medical condition and they traveled to Nigeria and then there was an episode. So she wanted the medical team to just stabilize him, a kind of
Mm-hmm.
a preparation stage for the medical process so that he could be stable for him to be moved
To the
to
US.
US immediately. And in the process, the child died.
Yeah.
So the other woman who was talking said that she had a son at the background where she was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked, "If you are given 15 million pounds, will you go to Nigeria?" She said, "No amount of money will make her go back to Nigeria." So it's not about money.
Right.
So
Yep.
it's about the your mental health, if I may say, your mental
Yep.
health.
Yep.
Okay, you have your fine building, the neighborhood, the noise from the generator and everything. Or today you hear that you are running for your life and all that. So these things are all factors. And
Yep.
when you come to I mean, a country where this is another problem again, these basic fears you have are gone.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
becomes, you know, So these are things that really inform this whole idea about migration to not just about like this woman who said 50 million pounds, no amount of money will take her back. So it's not about money or poverty.
Yeah, if she need money, she would just go to Nigeria and get the 50 million pounds, for example.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. But I think this brings us to a very important aspect, which again is still what we talk about mostly on this show, and that is what exactly is your reason for migrating, and that do not listen or fall for what people say. You have to ask yourself genuinely where you are today versus where you're going to, what's going to work for you. Not everyone who is abroad actually, has a good life. I was talking with a friend recently, and we were talking about this invincible pressure in Europe, the invincible pressure in Europe. So even if you think, oh, you're going for greener pasture, it also comes with, let's say, the trade-off. You know, to a large extent, in as much as one may not necessarily have the type of peace of mind that they would experience in Europe, but you also experience another type of peace of mind back home because you just know it's home. At least for sure, this invincible pressure is not there. But for the majority of the people in Europe, there's always this invincible pressure. You know, pressure or fear of the unknown. You have no idea what's going to happen. But if you're back home, there is also that, but in a different way. So at the end, you just have to look at what's going to work best for you, and don't do it because other people are doing. It may not work for you. You know, so that greener pasture could actually be where you are right now. And again, that's why we feel the need for you to be informed, know about your plan for the future. Do not just jump and follow other people because they did it. And that brings me also to the point of why we are creating Settling, the platform that is bringing this podcast to you every other week. We want you to be informed. We want you to know what you're going to get yourself into. Gone are the days when you should just listen to what people say online and follow them. Yes, follow them, but with both eyes open. Follow them, but also do your research. Follow them, but also learn. Because at the end of the day, their lifestyle, their experience, and even what they're sharing with you may entirely be different from what you're going to learn and share. So, if you're not uncertain, I do encourage you to sign up on the platform, learn about what the people are talking, who is doing what, um, and begin to search for information that fits your own need. Because at the end of the day, it is you who is going to live the life abroad. It is you who is going to reap what you sow, or the other way around. So it's definitely worth it to take the time. I guess for me, the point here is um, it goes beyond the search for greener pastures. That's how I'm going to say it. It goes beyond that because there are so many other things that are involved that people don't even think about. Yeah, good. As always, guys, if you have questions, comment, you want to chip in, please by all means feel free to do that. We're now beginning to gradually consider, say, opening the um, how do you call it, opening the doors so that we can also have like live participant joining the show, so we can also talk about these things. The reason Mike and I come here to speak about these things is because we genuinely feel the need for you to be rightly informed, make the right decision, and above all, that you truly understand that you have a purpose. Again, no country is going to take you in because they want you to come and make money in their country. No way. They want you to bring something to their country. And if you have that at the back of your mind, then it probably will change your thought process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true, Michael. Because nobody wants to take problem. You cannot see problem as okay, come, I love you. Even in the workplaces, everybody's looking for who will solve problems. So you cannot be carrying problem about, and then you're saying you're taking it to Europe. Europe don't import problem; they import solution.
You're taking your problem to Europe,
You're taking your
That,
problems to Europe,
and
though.
that's the part that people miss when they go for visa interview, that they fail. They tell you, they ask you, do you plan to come back to Nigeria after your studies? Like, no, I'm not going back to that country. I'm staying in Europe. And you can be sure that you're not going to get that visa. But
Yeah.
the irony there is Europe wants you to stay for sure, because if you come to study and you stay, that's actually the reason why I mean, of course, amongst other reasons why they let you study for free, in the hope that you stay back and work. But first, that you're educated, you learn the system. But when you tell them you will stay back after your studies, they deny you the visa.
And Michael, I don't know if you are aware of something happened in Canada recently. Some India students, a good number of them, they went to on his visit for a study program in Canada, and as part of the terms and condition of the what is called the admission, they were to be granted like residency permit after their study. And
Hmm.
now, the same families went to borrow money, sold properties in order to send their children to the school in Canada with the
Hmm.
hope of securing job after their studies. Michael, after the program, at the conclusion of the program, they said that clause in the contract was
Abolished.
removed,
Okay.
was abolished, and then all the students are now stranded. And they were kind of frustration because they were saying for those of them who have taken some say their father is not in debt,
Yeah, yeah,
and all of that. So if you create the impression that, man, I'm coming with all of our family problem to your country, nobody wants to take that kind of problem.
exactly.
You know,
Maybe it was too much. That was why they now removed that clause. You
I
know.
think so because I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
that the people they were not trying to over take advantage of that
Hmm.
opening, and so they had to go and readjust, make adjustment to it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if like just to further look to what you say, if you are showing this clear sign that, man, we have got problems in our country,
yeah,
and we
yeah,
want to
yeah.
run to you to see if we can find solution, man,
Hmm.
they will also become careful. They'll become skeptical about it.
Exactly. If it becomes too much, then
Yeah.
they will, be a bit more laid back, take some time, reevaluate, and that's when the system begins to get really tight. And you can also see this
Yeah.
exactly in Nigeria, for example. At least for good, maybe close to 4 years or so, the visa processing period, especially for students coming from Nigeria to Germany, was terrible. You know, yes, they want more professionals, more skilled workers, more blah blah blah, and Nigeria has them in great numbers. But when the applications started pouring in, they were like, guys, chill, what's happening here? That's too much, guys, chill. Literally, you know. And now they started just, raising the bars. If you're not like, we've talked about that a couple of times here. If you're not a first class candidate, if you don't have scholarship, if you don't have, if you're not a PhD student, because again, it's like the pressure is too much. Because ordinarily, the other people that met all the basic requirements, but because the number increased, given what you're saying as well, it's like, why are so many people coming from this country? So now let's raise the bar. And I think that affected a couple of countries, Nigeria for sure, Cameroon at some point, and then people started, going to Ghana. After a while, they saw that Ghana was also getting really filled up, and now they also increased it. You know, now it is still, I think the duration is still maybe about the same, but the difference is, yeah, maybe you hear from them a little bit faster. So again, guys, beyond the search for greener pastures, no one is going to let you come to their country to bring your problems there. It's you have to bring something to get something, and I think this is the mentality everyone should have, regardless of who is saying what. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like like you rightly said, if I must move to a country, because this country they also have uh, infrastructure,
Yeah.
and the number of persons they are letting into the country, they also what it's not like in our own part of the country of the world where you don't look at number of population versus infrastructure. So they just don't want
Hmm.
to keep pouring people into the space where they cannot be accountable to them, or and provide some basic amenities so that the amenities will not become under too much pressure. So all
Yeah.
these are things that at that level, at the level of national leadership at national level in their own country, these are things that they look at. In this area, you may have a street. Most of you go, yes, say transformer is overloaded. Boom, transformer blows.
Abio, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you could hear that, okay, in this place now, the hospital around this area is not enough for us, or we don't have hospital, or you come and you see crowd, number of persons, the hospital is overcrowded because we don't watch population versus infrastructure.
Yeah.
And for most of these European countries, if you look at the buses, look at the train, look at everything, it's like everything is meant to serve the population of that very
Hmm.
community or city or whatever it is. So it's not
Hmm.
just about, okay, I apply and then I get it. You mentioned something earlier that Europe was beginning to have a very huge number of qualified Nigerians. But
Yeah.
in HR, there's something they call, you might be appointable but not preferred. Okay,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
maybe three candidates. they're like a square, like they are all appointable. After the interview process, three candidates are appointable. If you take any of them, you are not ending up with a mishire. But
Okay.
somehow all the three cannot be selected. So you have to
Yeah.
select one. And that's the case now because of the organization also knows that the resources they have, they can only take one candidate. There's no workspace for two, three. And based on their provisions, they can't take more. So painfully they have to look for at other whatever and then choose one. And like you
Yeah.
said, the reason why this thing of maybe proof of fund is a major issue. When I was working as a junior executive with my principal, who was supposed to be in the UK,
Hmm.
I had to work on a number of visas, and the proof of fund, like they have to run through your financial records and know that yes, based on your financial record within a period of time. It's
Yeah.
not like you just go and borrow money and put it in the account, print out the bank statement and bring it out. These guys also they have got steps ahead to make sure
Yeah.
that the
Mhm.
system you don't beat the
Mhm.
system very easily. So this is how
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
works. And
Mhm.
a poor man, like I said earlier, will hardly move to Europe. You said something earlier. I think I just lost that thought now. But yeah, you've always mentioned that if you're already doing fine in your country, that not everybody really needs to move to Europe.
Of
Europe is
course.
inviting you to come, but if you already find where you are, there's no point really considering moving. You
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And this is why you can't just follow what people are saying or follow whatever you read or hear. You need to also learn these things for yourself. And at the end of the day, you find out that that thing that you stress yourself so much about, you've achieved it, and now you ask yourself, what next? There will always be something next, always be something next, always be something next. So you have to start today with the end in mind and try to stay focused. The biggest challenge, again, as we always talk about, is not arrival. Arrival is only the beginning. Arrival is only the beginning because once you arrive, that's actually where everything begins. And that could be the beginning of the troubles for you, the success, the confusion, you name it, you know. And definitely, Europe is not like a place where you can just wake up and call somebody. Spontaneous, living a spontaneous life back home might work for you, but here, I doubt that it's going to work for you. So, taking spontaneous decision to land here, you can't take spontaneous decision to land here and now want to live a structured life because life here is structured. So again, beyond the search for greener pastures, it goes beyond that. It goes. I think it comes back to some of the key things which we talked about: stability, predictability, opportunities, just peace of mind. Even though it comes also with its own, let's say, disadvantages too at the end of the day. So best case is that you're able to access both worlds. I made a post about this a couple of months ago. It's not about staying wherever, but it's just about being able to go where you can go to easily. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think those. Yeah, you want to add some points to that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think I just lost my thought now. I was about to say something, but I've just forgotten what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's okay. But I guess that really wraps up the key point which we wanted to talk about today. And for me, it's there could be like what we see, right? We already mentioned those things as what we see: stability, predictability, security, good health, opportunities, and so on. This the reason why we mention these things because these are the things that we actually see in practice because when certain things happen to you, you find out that hey, it's not even about the money after all. Because at the end of the day, once you start having the money, you know that this is useless, really. And then other things become important. So you might as well just know what are those important things and stick to them.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Okay.
you're back now.
Like you
Okay.
said, we were talking about some time ago where you mentioned that the approach in Africa and in Nigeria, in most cases, is just in case. But in Europe, the approach is just in time. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
so it's just in time in Europe, the approach, and then in Africa is more like just in case. If you want to cook in Nigeria, you say in case brother fit come or a sister fit come, we might
Abio.
have visitors.
Hmm.
But in abroad, you just cook according to the number of persons And then, like you say, you don't just live spontaneously, just leave your house and go into another person's
No.
house. Some Nigerians were stranded on scholarship, who were in some of these countries were stranded recently because the state government has sent them to study abroad. They didn't renew their accommodation in time. And in
Wow.
Europe, it's not like it. I will say, landlord, you go to call, they give you 6 months, 3 months. In Europe, once your subscription is up, I don't know how long the landlord can tolerate. I think even 1 hour or 2 hours, you might be locked out of your. I don't know how much time you have to
No,
make
no,
up
no.
for delay in payment.
Hmm.
So in that place, so that's what you're saying, and I think we're going to be having more time on. I think invisible pressure or whatever. I think that should be a topic
Yeah, the
for
invisible pressure in
another
Europe.
day.
It's deep.
Yeah,
It's deep.
yeah,
Yeah, we,
it's the
we need to talk about that because that is where we now understand the balance between um, there is peace of mind where you come from. You know, my wife and I were talking about this lately. We like in Europe, most times people are just in the survival mode. You work, you pay the bills, and then you're waiting to get your next earnings so you're able to pay the next bills and the next bills and the next bills. But back home, you don't really stress about the bills like this because the bills are not that much. But then you stress about other things. So the question is how to find the right balance. So you have the stability, the predictability, the opportunity, and the other stuff we mentioned here. But then you also have that invincible pressure, which we're going to talk about in our next episode. What are those invincible pressures? And what would be the trade off? Um, we mentioned some of the things that, okay, would make people leave. But when you come here and have those things, you also have that invincible pressure. So how do we, balance it to see that wherever you decide to stay, you still can lead, a good life. So that brings it from me to my final point in this conversation this evening: moving abroad and beyond the search for greener pastures. What people think, what they do by default, in reality and in practice, the underlying reasons are actually different, whether you know it, you accept it or not, because the process is actually evident of the fact that you're not going to Europe just to get greener pastures. You're coming first and foremost to add value. That's why the system take you. So you should, be proud of yourself, say why you're making that move, and maybe you should be a bit more conscious about it. And I think if you're conscious about it, that could change, your perspective, your thought process, and probably this invincible pressure that we're going to talk about in our next episode.
well said, Mike. I have nothing to add. Thank you all for being part of today's episode of the podcast. I'll see you next week. Next 2 weeks, I mean.
Cheers.